Hello, welcome back to RSQ. We have our friend Carlo here. Carlo is the author of Vial and Vial 2, which we read Vial back in, was it June? I think we read Vial. And then Vial 2, I think just recently came out this past, was it
October.
December? October.
Yeah.
All my months at the end of the year were blending together. October.
Yeah,
Um,
Vial was one of the early indie reads we did when we were pounding them out. The
Spinning
month
the
we
wheel.
did, we
yeah,
Vial.
spinning the wheel.
It's one of our. I want to say it might have been one of the first ones we spun on the wheel because we did a few indie books and then we started spinning the wheel. And I think we spun Forsaken Planet, and then after that we spun Vial. I don't know. It's
It
too
was
I don't
long
know,
ago.
somewhere in the beginning. But after all that time, here we are. And now we get to talk with the author himself, Carlo. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Carlo.
Well, I'm a high school teacher. Kind of got into writing. I don't want to say accidentally, but it didn't start the way I thought it would. It was more of just trying to get a story out and doing it for myself. And as we progressed through, it started to take shape of a book, and then I just kind of started chasing a dream, and still chasing it when I have spare time. Being that I have three kids, a loud, annoying dog, this house doesn't necessarily um, give the nice, solemn, quiet mind vibes that I need to write all the time. But once they're in bed, I get a little bit of creativity. The creativity juices flowing a little bit. But
There you go.
definitely, I think I put in the end of my first book. It's the second one took a little while because of all the noise that was going on here. So.
What do you teach?
So usually I teach things in the history section. It does spawn to like the psychology, anthropology, sociology. I've kind of got a different position this year. I'm teaching success. So it's kids who may have missed out on a couple credits and need to catch up. They come to me and then I work with them. So it's all grades, all high school, 9 to 12 here. When we have a kid like will go on like a family trip and miss exams, they got to come to me. So I'm kind of like the catch up guy, help kids get back on track.
Cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, so it's good. It's a good job.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So before we get into all about the book, when you're not writing or working, what do your hobbies look like? What kind of guy are you? If we were gonna run into you on the street or run into you while you're in the middle of doing whatever's fun, what's fun?
It's a good question. I play lots of hockey. That's the only thing I do that's athletic. So that's about all I got. Anywhere from 2 to 4 days a week. In my friend group, I think maybe this is where the creative part comes from. They would all tell you that like I'm the guy who makes games. I just always trying to come up with a new, whether it's a yard game or a game to play when people come over. I host a lot of events. I run some fantasy football leagues.
So you're the most important person in your friend group, is what you're saying.
Yeah, you're
You
the glue.
bring everybody together.
They would never say that ever, but I like to think so. I'm the one who's.
It sounds like it to me.
If there's an event, it's at my house. Super Bowl will be at my house. I keep the fantasy football leagues going.
Man, we could get on some tangents about fantasy football, but I'll keep it off camera.
That might be a whole nother podcast on that one. Yeah. So yeah, that's me. I try to be as fun loving. I love life, and I try to just really squeeze every moment out of it. So, and it's all about having fun is what I've kind of figured out right now. So that's kind of what I aim for. It's fun. How can I make things more fun? How can we have a good time? Just laugh and have a good time is basically where I'm at in life right now, and it's working pretty well so far.
Well, we can
Sounds like
probably
you're doing it right.
I'm trying. I don't know if it is the right answer, but we'll
As
see.
long
I
as
guess.
it's right for you, that's all that matters.
it's a positive outlook too. Can't go wrong seeking to just live life to the fullest, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, this next part we can clip for the socials for advertisement purposes. But if you were going to sum up your book, or if you were trying to hook someone who was like, "Oh, what's your book about?" What would you tell them? You could do like a fun spin on it if you're trying to hit them with like a bumper sticker, or you can just give them if you're giving them like an overview, like what are you saying that gets them to pick up Vial?
Yeah, I think it's what I'm telling people what it's about when they ask me. More or less, it's like if you could stop aging, it's one of those stories. It's an old story. It's the story of the fountain of youth. I mean, it's been done before, in a sense that people are always looking for that way to stop aging. It's relevant to everybody because people with the Botox and the makeovers, and everybody's looking for that ability to stop aging. I see it more now in society than ever. People they don't want to get old. And maybe that's me. I love life so much that I wrote a book about not aging. Um, and from there, it's like, well, what problems would come from that? So it's the fountain of youth told in a new age sci-fi tech government conspiracy kind of way, I guess, is the way I'm looking at that.
It's funny that you say that, because when we read it, that was one of the comments that we both had was like, this doesn't feel like any other like immortality story we've read. So it's funny to hear you say that it's like, it's an old story about, and I get where you're coming from, and it makes sense to hear you explain it that way. But when we were looking at it, we were like, this isn't like other immortality stories that we've read or anything like that.
When I started writing it, I changed the title. It wasn't called Vial. It had a really silly name. I just titled it FOY, and I hated the name Foy or however it sounded or however it came out, but it was Fountain of Youth. And I was like, this is what they're making. They're making a something that you drink, and it's the Fountain of Youth. But as I was writing it, I just kept saying the word vial in there. Oh, he's got his vial necklace. And then I think I was maybe 3/4 of the way through, and I'm like, I got to change this to vial. But through it, I intertwined, and I mean, maybe because I've read it so many times and edited it so many times, but I intertwined a lot of the Fountain of Youth into it. So anytime, and I mean, maybe this is insight to like authors, but like every time I struggled for a name, like I had to come up with a name of a town or a name of a character. Like there's names that sound like they belong in stories. And then I feel like there's names that like, you're like, that doesn't sound like it's a story name. But every time I tried to come up with something, I was like referencing always the Fountain of Youth. So in the story, they reference like the drink that they always had was it was Scotch. It was batch 1521. 1521 was one of the major years that they were looking for the Fountain of Youth through the Conquistadors, who is one of the groups in the group. Their flag in the book, it's described quickly as a flag that the Conquistadors used to carry with them. Some of the names, like Diego was a famous Conquistador. So it was all that stuff was intertwined through the book. Of when I was struggling, I'm like, well, I'll just take something from the story of the Fountain of Youth. Even I call him Bimini. But I know it's pronounced Bimini. It's an island in the Bahamas, and that is another area they thought the Fountain of Youth was located. It was one of the hot spots that people like went on a search for it. So everything I kind of pulled for symbolism was based off of the Fountain of Youth, which is what this story is kind of about, I guess, in a way that you could look at it.
I love little Easter eggs like that, and being able to like hear where you get the inspiration and everything, and then it being all interwoven. Like you don't notice it at first, but maybe on a reread, or if you are knowledgeable about that thing, or talk to the author themselves, then you get to see those cool insights.
It's hard to convince people to read a book once, so twice usually doesn't happen. But once somebody does read it, I always ask if they picked up on that. A lot of times it goes unnoticed, but I tried to figure out as many things as I could with the Fountain of Youth.
Well, that was something that you said too that we had missed initially, that you had brought up when we talked, was if you look in the vial on the cover, was there Vans in there? And then the second you said it, I'm like, am I just that unobservant of a person that like I saw this? It was like blue vial. That's it. Very nice. And there's a whole car in there.
It hurt because I asked 100 people, and I think 95% of people didn't see it. And that was like, again, it's the Easter egg, right? I was like, oh, when I designed this, actually it changed shape a few times. I wish I had the other ones here. It started off as a black book with a red vial on it. But it was like me just trying to use clip art and stuff. It was terrible. And then I had one designed for me, and the RV was a lot bigger. The vial was a little bit more of a purple color. And for some reason, it comes up in Goodreads like that. I don't know if you saw that.
I have seen the purple one. Yeah.
Right. So there's a story here. And maybe I'll tell you the story, and then we can get into how that changed. Are you ready for the story?
We're back. We're ready. Hit us with it.
Okay.
Boom.
So when I first started writing the book, somebody actually framed it for me. This is the first book I ever sold. They gave it back to me. This is the original, like, clip art, terrible. But to me, this was like the coolest thing in the world, because this is the first time I ever held the book. I was like, oh my God, I wrote a book. And the goal was to always just have this, put it on a shelf. I had no intention to share it with anybody. It was just write a book, put it on the shelf, and say, that's mine. And after a while, someone's like, why don't you pitch this to a company? Like, this is 14, 15. I kind of a little bit before this indie wave which has been great for indie authors, but I would say it predates that wave a little bit, predates TikTok.
Yeah.
So I started throwing out the query letters. You guys probably are familiar with the process, but when you're writing a book, fill out a query letter, research all these companies, look for agents and people who might be interested in this type of book. I think I sent out close to 40. And the publishing world it's interesting. A lot of if you've ever looked at the online submissions, they all say the same thing. Submit your query letter, maybe 1 to 3 chapters. If you don't hear from us in 4 to 8 months, assume we're not interested. It's a long time to sit and wait.
4 to 8 months?
4 to 8 months. And that's
crazy.
That's almost every company. I'm like, why does this take so long? And apparently they are just inundated with submissions. Like they're getting hundreds of submissions. There's a lot of people trying to do this, and they have to sift through, what's good, what's bad. Is this, a real person? Now they got the AI bot going. I'm sure people just submitting books like crazy. And so I send out 40 and I'm just kind of waiting, and I start writing Vial 2. 4 months later, I get an email back, and it's from a company, and they say, hey, we love this. We love the concept. We want you. We're a new startup, but we are fully invested, and we want you to be one of our lead authors. And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I have Zoom calls with them, meet the owners. They end up bringing on like 12 authors. We all have this group chat, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm making it. This is it. This is my break. I signed the contract. And we go to work. So when I wrote my book, it originally looked like this. I kind of printed this off, and I went through, I was editing it. I edited it by myself 5 times plus. And that's using at the time, like, your spell check and whatever and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Then I had my sister-in-law, who's an English teacher, go through it. She probably makes 5,000 corrections, just punctuation, indents, things like that. I get another guy to look at it. Same thing. He finds more. And then I do it again. So I submit my full book to this company, and they go, hey, this needs some work. And I go, really? Like, I made a lot of corrections. So they're like, yeah, we're going to polish it up for you. So I work with their editor for 3 or 4 months, tweaking every single word of the book, every single period, punctuation. We clean it up. They say, perfect. Your book's good for editor 2. I said, okay, editor 2. Okay. So there should be barely anything. Another 3 to 4 months editing with editor 2. And they're like, Carlo, guess what? You're there. You made it to editor 3. I'm like, another editor. We end up taking about 10 months to edit this 3 times. And just as we're finishing up, I think I had like maybe 6 chapters of the 3rd edit left. The owner calls me, and she was a very nice lady. And she goes, Carlo, I don't know how to tell you this, but there's some problems in the company. I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? She's like, it was a family company. She goes, we can't agree on the direction, so we're splitting up. I don't trust your book with the owner, and I'm going to offer you your rights back to your book. Take the 3 edits free of charge, like they didn't charge me or no holding royalties or anything. But I strongly suggest that you do not stay with this company. And I would take this one-time offer to take your rights back, and we'll dissolve your contract. So I did. And here I am a year behind on writing Vial 2 with an edited book and ready to go, and no company to represent me. I started throwing it out again, but it was fairly clear to me that after it had been touched by a company, nobody wanted to touch it anymore. So I did send out another 25 queries, and I didn't hear a single word back. And I was honest with them. I'm like, I was with a company, they, disbanded. And so at that point I was like, I just can't keep sitting on going through this process. I want to continue to write. So I started writing Vial 2, and I guess with that, they had changed my cover. So that was the other cover. They wanted to do something a little bit cleaner. RV is in there too. It's a little bit bigger in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a little desert in the background too.
Yeah. And then we ended up with this one. And again, they said, you keep your cover, you keep everything that you've done. But they sent me on my way, or I could say we parted ways mutually, I guess is the best way to say that. The problem was I had started writing Vial 2, and I guess it's not really a problem. But now that no one was going to take Vial 1, sure as heck wasn't going to be able to pitch Vial 2 to somebody and be like, hey, do you want the sequel of my book that no one really wants the first one of? Because it's been, edited by a company. So that's why I've just kind of been in the indie world. I've done some other side projects on the side. I've got, I did 3 kids books.
Okay.
So I did Finding the Bright Side. It's about trying to look on the positive side of things. People, are always negative. It's raining out, and this is for my kids. I'm like, it's raining out, but playing in the rain can be fun. Or it's windy out. That sucks, but let's go fly a kite because we need the wind. So it's looking on the bright side. This is my first one, Puppies from Heaven. We had a dog who passed away. So I wrote this to explain to my kids what happens when a dog passes. I actually sold more of this than I sold Vial. It does really well. It's sad, but for
Hey, now
kids,
I'm depressed a little bit.
Yeah.
it's a little depressing, but it you know what, it gave answers to the kids, and it was, especially in our family, it was a lifesaver. And I get people still, hey, do you have any more of those puppy books? We lost our pet. So it's sad to say there's a market for it, but I think it's more of a need because how do you explain to a 4-year-old that their puppy's not coming home from the hospital? It was tough for our family, so I think this helped a little bit. And then I just did one more as a princess story. It's kind of inspired by my daughter. It's about a little girl who helps her dad who's sick, but it's like an adventure to her. So she's like a princess bringing her dad soup, but like she's a princess on a mission through the house. And again, just trying to keep the creative juices flowing while I was finishing up Vial 2. And then I still got some stuff on the horizon I'm trying to get into and go from there.
It's very wholesome. Like I didn't know that you wrote kid stories. Those are really cool.
Yeah, again, it was more learning the process through the through the indie author of Vial, and how to go through the KDP and put something together. I think when you don't sell a ton of the books, or you kind of get shot down in the publishing world, like there's a lot of people who probably try this and quit, but I had learned so much about the editing process, about the promotion process. That's why I got TikTok in the first place. The company told me, like, you need TikTok, you need an account, and you need to start posting. And once I learned all that stuff, I was kind of like, it felt like a waste to try and quit. So I just tried to direct my um, you know, do something else while I was waiting on the other stuff to go through. And I'm going to keep doing it for now. I don't know if I'll ever be like a Pierce Brown, I don't think that's going to happen, but who knows? Maybe one day something will take off.
You could say that you're looking on the bright side.
I'm always looking on the bright side. Is what I'm doing there. Yes. Yes. You live by
That
those
whole
words.
process sounds incredibly frustrating that you had to go through
It
with
sounds
the
exhausting.
with that company that fell apart. That's a unique experience, I feel like.
It is. I don't know how often. There's a lot of companies out there that will, like, how do you say, you could pay to publish. So like I had a couple companies reach out. They're like, hey, we love your book. It's for $9,000, we'll give you our package. And there's a lot of people who can get books published, but you kind of fall in this trap of spending $9,000 to get it out there. There's a lot of people that are like, there's one company, they're looking for everything that Vial was. I was going through their wish list, and it was like, we're looking for a young adult fiction book, a coming of age story. I'm like, that's this, we're here, right? So I went to their submission guidelines, and it said, we are currently not accepting submissions from, we're currently closed for submissions unless you are part of a minority group, part of the LGBTQ community, or a writer with a disability, or a refugee, something. It was something like that. And I was like, oh, I go, like, so I can't submit my book. It was like, they're open to everybody but me. Which is just kind of weird how the publishing world can be sometimes. It's a lot of people doing it, and it's hard. It's a hard one to crack, but I like the freedom of the indie author. It gives me, it's not a lot of money in it, but it's never really, I would say, people always ask me, I've got a lot of people as a teacher, they come up to me. I have students who have read my book, and they ask me, if they should get into it. And my word is just don't get into it for the money. Get into it because you want to do something creative. And to be honest, there is nothing cooler than like holding this in your hands and being like, this is mine. Or I see it sometimes, I'm like, I wrote that. Like, it's a cool feeling. So I would say, don't do it for the money. Do it for yourself, or maybe you want a bucket list. A lot of people put it on their bucket list to do something like that. It's a cool process. It's, might not be everybody's end goal to just have a book that doesn't sell 1 million copies, but it's still a cool process.
Seems rewarding. You get a thing afterwards.
Yeah.
It's not like, I accomplished this and it's just you accomplish it. It's like, I get a thing. I made this thing.
Yeah. My very first version of it, because I didn't even know about how to make it a book, and this is so embarrassing, was I literally printed out like 200, or it was like 300 pages, but I printed it out like the size of a book, and I cut it with like a paper cutter, and I like stacked all the pages, and I held it up. It was like, a book. And I looked at it, I'm like, this is terrible. But that's how desperate I was, just to have something in my hand that I had made. And then once I figured out how to turn it into an actual book, like I said, the black one there that I had, it wasn't the prettiest thing in the world, but I was so proud of this when I first got it. It's cool.
That's awesome. They framed it for you too and gave it back. That's pretty unique.
Yeah, it was neat. But
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say we've interviewed mainly. I think we've done only indie authors, but all the indie authors we've talked to just tell us how painful the process is and how it's like it was described to us as like a war of attrition against yourself, like not giving up, fighting to keep pushing with no reward for the ability to publish your book.
Yeah, it's it's a very, like I said, the industry itself is weird. Like I had even learned when you publish a book, like how the royalties and stuff work. And there's like this thing, like say your book does blow up and it goes to Walmart, like Walmart will order X amount of copies, and just use Walmart as an example. But there's something in there that if they don't sell out, they rip the covers off and then and throw them out. And the idea is that they're not going to waste the money to send them back to you. So it's like a wash, but then you have to eat that cost as well. And I might be getting it a little bit twisted, but they do that, or they mark them up with a black marker, and like that's a kind of like a loss that the company would take for what they don't sell. So that's incorporated to what comes back in the royalties. So after you write the book, I mean, it costs money to print the book. Then the company wants to take a share. The people who are selling it, whether it's Barnes and Nobles or Amazon or Walmart, take a cut. The company takes a cut. And then there's that, whatever's left for you. It doesn't work out to a lot either. So you have to sell quite a few to make some money. There's some people who are, if they're chasing that, I could see it being discouraged, just getting discouraged from what comes back to them. But that's why I say it's you can't do it for the money. You got to do it for yourself, to, maybe the love of writing as well. I think that's probably the most, if you like telling stories. And even like, I mean, you guys read a lot of books and I'm sure movies and stuff like that too. It's kind of like I wanted to create something that maybe surprise people. I think there was a little bit of surprise at the end of Vial there. Vial 2, I was going to ask you guys about Vial 2, unless you guys have questions. Am I going off your job?
Listen, this is,
No,
we have no, like, this is what our structure, we have to do this. This is just, we'll ask you things and you'll keep talking and we'll tangent off we'll just talk about whatever we want.
We're chill. We're enjoying just kind of like a coffee talking.
I like that. Oh, someone's making coffee upstairs. So when I was coming up with the idea for Vial 2, what I was trying to combat was the second book slump. Like anytime you see a trilogy, a lot of times, people always say, nothing's better as the original. Like you watch Spider-Man and you get to see Spider-Man get his powers, right? And then Spider-Man 2 comes out. It's good, but everybody likes the original because you got to see Spider-Man get his powers. So I don't know if this was, I think I had wrote you guys a message, but when I did Vial 2 is actually like an origin story as well. So the way I tell people, like I don't know if I would call it my hook, but the way I describe it is like Vial 1 is Batman, Vial 2 is Robin, and then Vial 3 will be Batman and Robin. And what I did with Vial 2, I don't know how much you guys picked up on it, but it was hard to write. I had Vial 1 open, and as I was writing Vial 2, the storylines, I use the terminology, they kiss throughout the book.
Mm-hmm.
And without, spoilers or anything like that, like there's the auto shop scene in Vial 1. So they get to the auto shop and you don't know what happened. You go inside the auto shop and see what happened. But in Vial 2, you actually got to see what happened inside the auto shop. So it's kind of telling, as you guys know, it's the same story or the same timeline, just a different perspective. So now you're in the auto shop and like, oh my God, that's what happened. And, same at the way that the book concludes, those timelines bounce off each other. There's a few other parts. And I've been asking people for feedback who have read Vial 2 where the characters intertwine. And I was always curious to know how many times it was picked up on. And there's a scene in Vial 2 where Billy comes out of a house and he's carrying somebody and he explains that it's his friend. And for someone who was just reading Vial 2, you'd be like, what are you talking about? But I had to line that timeline up to Vial 1, where the bedroom scene, I know it's been a while for you guys, but there's a big bedroom scene.
I remember.
Yeah. He would have had to leave the bedroom and go out onto the road, and he had somebody he had to take with him. And that is in Vial 2. And now you see him come out and they meet again. So the whole storyline's kind of.
Did you have those moments planned when you wrote Vial 1? Or
oh God,
did you
no. That's why it was so difficult to put together. I didn't, when I wrote Vial 1, I thought it might be just a standalone book. And then I had maybe written 3 chapters of Vial 2, but I was going a totally different direction. And somebody goes, it'd be cool to see it from a different perspective. And I'm like, how does that even work? And then I kind of was like lying in bed with him, staring at the ceiling. I'm like, I think I can figure that out.
Now wait a minute.
So, and then it also, unveils, it's hard because there's a lot of bad things that happen in the books in Vial 2. How do you write? That was my biggest part, is the main character there. He's doing bad things, but how do you write to like him? So a lot of the questions I'll ask after somebody reads it, I go, "Did you like that character? Because he does bad things, but you have to like him." So it was difficult. That was my goal. I hope I did it well, but I was hoping that you guys would like the main character, Figello in Vial 2, because he was doing bad things, but to give him a purpose and guide him through that story, you had to make him to be, your fan favorite, and
Hmm.
that was hard as well. Oh, that's
Yeah,
where.
you did good.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, I liked the main character, and it was one of the questions I was going to ask eventually too was your decision, because it's a sequel, but it's more like you said, kind of like a sidecar, like where Robin writes. It's like it's not a sequential sequel. It's happening at the same time as the other one in the same timeline.
Yeah,
Um, so I was gonna ask about that and the decision to do that, but it was nice because we got more information on like a lot of the background things that were happening in book one. We got to see why they were happening or actually happened in book two. Like we got to see a lot from like the government side of things and like where the different groups came together. One of the groups was named the Conquistadors, if I remember correctly,
yeah,
too. Speaking
yeah,
of which, so
yeah,
um yeah.
yeah. That was again. It kind of pulled back as how do you like, to be honest, there's a lot of in Vial 1, there's a lot of, like I said, I teach history and psychology. I took a lot of philosophy in university. Um, it does pose a lot of philosophical questions, even though it's a kid, like it's not a kid yet young adult book, but I find that a lot of people relate to it because everybody can kind of or knows of the Fountain of Youth story. Um, but a lot of questions about like morality. It's a teen book on the cover, but it does ask a lot of deep questions. And the one is when they do the vote, right? Would old people vote no against it? It was one of the questions. And it's like, no grandpa is going to vote no selfishly, right? For their kids, right? Like if I was an old person, they're like, hey, you can vote this to go through, but you don't get a vial. I'm not going to say, no, I don't want my grandkids. Like, of course I would vote yes. Right. And then, the living forever, what does that do? Does that change? And I think I intertwined it with the history teacher in there. And each character had their how do I say this? There were some people like it was a little bit long. There were some scenes that were dragged out. I get that, but almost every scene had a purpose. So when he's in the history class, a lot of what the history teacher's doing is pulling out philosophical thoughts,
Yeah,
right?
I was
All of a
going to
sudden,
mention that. I was going to
all of a
ask
sudden
if that was like you
you're not
writing
aging
yourself in.
anymore. Yeah, you're not aging anymore. You don't have to have kids right away. Like this changes the way life looks. I guess to even go back on that, and this is sorry, I'm going to speak out of timeline here. The way the story came to be, maybe I should have started that with that, guys. Was
That's okay.
You're
me,
good.
me
No
and my wife
worries.
were on a road trip. We were driving around the states. I think we got out to like Wyoming, and no radio signals, so we just start talking, and we are, asking like, yeah, if you won the lottery, what would you do? But not just like, oh, I'd buy a sports car, but like deep in conversation, like this is what I do day one. And we did the superpower one, if you could have a superpower, what'd you do? And we killed like a half an hour just talking about superpowers. And then that's when the question came up. I'm like, we could stop aging. Like, what would be the perfect time to stop aging? And I think I was about 24, 25 at the time. I'm like, I feel pretty good now. Like, this would be a good time to stop aging. And then the question came up is like, why is somebody not working on this? And this is again, 2014. I'm like, Bill Gates, not Elon Musk at the time, but Bill Gates at the time had all the money. Like if he took all his money and invested it into a company to try and extend his life, he could start fresh, rebuild his empire, rebuild his wealth, but he could live forever. And I'm like, well, if someone was working on that and we weren't dying because of our age, would we run into a population problem? Who would get it? Would it just be for the elite or would everyone get one? Would you give one to a 90-year-old? Right. And then I was kind of, because in some of the anthropology courses, we talk about like people who contribute to societies. It's a hard conversation or maybe sounds negative, but like you look at people who are pulling from the government. Like, would you give it to people in jail, right? We have to pay for these people in jail. So would they get to live forever in jail?
Mhm.
Or somebody who's, 85 years old, that's kind of on government assistance. Do they get a vial to live forever? So the idea was kind of we'd have to cut that off. And I know, again, I don't sound insensitive, but you'd cut that off so that people could contribute. And it kind of almost gives like I don't know, not the Hunger Games, but maybe like the Giver vibes or,
Mhm.
Yeah, very
uh,
dystopian.
yeah, just the dystopian vibes of having a community that can all contribute. And again, that we talked about that for an hour and a half. And from that point on, I'm like, I need to somehow write this. Like it needs to become, a story. And I just couldn't stop thinking about it. And from that point on, it was pen to paper. And I'll tell you that it changed a lot. as it was being written. It was going in one direction and changed, and um, I'm glad it got shaped into the way that it was.
So are we. I mean, we really enjoyed the story. Yeah, you said they're hard questions, but I mean, that's the whole point, right? Like, if this were to be a real thing, someone would have to make those decisions. Hopefully, somebody that is making good decisions at the time, but makes decisions that would, most benefit, the population, everything like that. But it's interesting. I mean, you bottled Fountain of Youth essentially, and gave it to the masses. So it was interesting because I felt like the book was very realistic in the sense of how things would play out because you'd have people that would try and monetize it, people try and steal it. Um, Most people take it right away, but what do you do with the kids? And then in book two, you got to see what the government was doing behind their back. And it's like, well, okay, this makes sense. This would probably happen type thing. So it was it was like Dakota had said, it was a very unique way of telling, like you said, the Fountain of Youth story because it was fresh. It wasn't just, only a couple people are searching for it and they get to live forever because they're the super good guys. It's like, no, everybody has it. So what are you gonna do about it?
What's funny is like sometimes I'll be like, on news sites, and there's not too often, or I should say, every so often, I'll see something where it's like they've reversed aging in mice. I think there's one that was like they reversed aging in dogs, or they're working on something to. And I'm like, maybe every time I see it, I'll like show my wife. I'm like, look, Vial, it's coming, it's coming. It's only a matter of time. Hopefully, I'm not above the cutoff when they finally. That would be ironic. Did you guys
That would
see?
be a little ironic.
Did you guys see Avatar 2?
Of the Way of
Blue
Water.
people?
Yeah, the way of water.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I saw it.
The
I haven't seen the third one yet.
no, me neither. But so one of my students read my book, and he goes, Mr. Girardo, he's like, you got to watch Avatar 2. I go, why? He goes, just watch it, please. He goes, there's something in there that you're gonna see, and he goes, you'll know it when you see it. And I go, okay. So like a month later, I end up watching it, and I don't know if you recall this scene, but they have those whales, and they open their mouths and they drill into their head.
Mhm.
And I don't know if do you remember what they do with that?
I don't remember, to be honest.
No, I don't
What did you
remember.
remember? They so they pull out a yellow liquid, and he goes, this right here, he goes, this stops aging. A vial of this sells for millions of dollars back on Earth. And I was like, oh my God, James Cameron, you took my thing.
He stole it.
You stole it.
You're
It's
never
not
getting
enough
your
that he
credit
had
now.
a whole planet and unobtainium. He also had to say, well, Fountain of Youth inside of a whale's brain. Let's drill it out.
Yeah. And he called it a vial. A vial of this. I sat there, I'm like, oh my God, James Cameron, let's make a movie.
If you got to see if you got to see Vial though, like on some sort of a screen, or how would you want to see it? Would you want like a James Cameron directed film? Would you want like a Netflix series?
oh God,
Like, how
I
would you
take-
want to see it?
I would take anything, to be honest. I would that when I wrote it, I was picturing it as a movie. I think I had watched like once in a while. I like those movies. If you've seen Stand by Me,
I love that movie.
yeah. So
I
like
love that movie so much.
I got those kind of vibes when I was writing it. It was like kids walking down the train tracks.
I can see that. Mhm.
I know they're going after a body in that one, but I was like, just camping. And I think I intertwined some of that, right? It was they pull up the RV, they start the fire, they sit around the campfire, they're up looking at the stars, they're passing the bottle around, sharing stories. And part of me was like that vibe of, and that's the coming of age. I mean, that's like the epitome of coming of age stories, Stand By Me. But I had a lot of vibes in that. I kind of like it's the other thing. It's interesting with writing books, and they talked about this with horror movies and stuff, but it's like the technology, like most horror movies can be ruined now if you have a cell phone. So like authors have to figure out ways to, or even like movie writers, screenplayers have to figure out ways to remove the technology because a simple phone call could like easily solve like, hey, where are you? Call them or text them. I think they did that in Ghostbusters, the new one. They're like, oh, the service is always terrible in this area. And it's like, oh, okay, good. You can't use your cell phone.
Yeah, there you go.
That's one of the things when you're doing this. I like the setting of it, maybe giving that. I think I went for that too. I was born in '86, so grew up in the '90s. But like the riding the bikes, the hanging out, to playing tag until the streetlights come on. In the opening chapter, that was like intertwining some of my childhood, but also to give it that like small city feel where like a little bit away from technology. I did get some I'm going on tangents here, fellas. Sorry. When I was
Go
going
for
through here with the editor, she was saying that she's like, well, all these boys would have cell phones. She's like, I think you need to write more technology. And so there are a few times where like they're in the lunchroom and I added something about checking their phones for the news in Vial 1. And the one that, know Michigan's a little closer here, so maybe we have similar viewpoints, but the lady was from Utah, and in the book, she goes, Mackenzie had turned 18, and the editor was like, you have Mackenzie, she's 18, and she's living at home. I'm like, yeah. She's like, and you don't mention anything of her paying rent. And I go,
What?
no. She's like, well, people they start paying rent or they move out when they're 18. And I was like, they do? Like,
In the
not,
movies, maybe, but not in real life.
I was like, have you seen the economy lately? But she was lost that Mackenzie would be at home as an 18-year-old girl and not moving out, no talk of moving out or not paying rent. She also, we had a huge discussion about windows. So there's a scene where, and it's just me being ignorant maybe, but Joey climbs in a back window. And in my head, I picture him prying open the window and then kicking in the screen. And she's like, well, that's backwards. I said, what do you mean? She goes, she would pull off the screen and slide open the window. It's like, what kind of windows you have in Utah? And then I'm realizing, yeah, I guess some windows are like slide the screen's on top, and like all my windows are crank windows that crank open and the screen's behind the window. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess that's a thing. So we had a big discussion about window, like of all things, and it's funny what people will take from a story. I was like, I'm trying to figure out if there's a plot hole with this fountain of youth potion, and you're worried about the windows.
About my screens.
Yeah, and the school schedule really threw her off. And again, I'm like, I'm a teacher. This is how our school works. She's like, well, not here. And I was like, okay, but I'm sure it's different everywhere you go. Everybody, it's different. So
I think people will pick up on the fact that they're in school and this is the schedule. I don't think it's that groundbreaking, right?
yeah, no, she was. We had some discussions. So I was just. I always kind of conclude that the publishing world and that whole world in general is very subjective. You have people that will love the book. You have people that hate it. I had somebody who said that their favorite part of the book was the character development. They're like, I love the characters. I fell in love with the characters. And then I had someone's like, hey, you need to work on your character development. And I was like, okay. But the other guy said he liked it. So I was like, some people, take different things. And so it's all over the place. That's why it's an interesting industry. And he said, I'll live by that. I just find the bright side of it. You read my book and enjoyed it. I'll take that as a win for me. So, I'm happy with that.
Is there anything you really had to like look up for your book, like besides apparently how windows work? That you had to kind of like look into. You're like, I actually don't know.
And
how
sub-bullet
blah,
of
blah,
that
blah,
question, did you have to do a bunch of research about military stuff? Because I feel like it was explained pretty well, the different like military groups and how they worked.
Yeah, I did. I'm reading a bunch of books now, and I know that some of these people, the research that they do is crazy. I just read 11/22/63 from Stephen King, and
I read that too.
Dakota just read that.
Great. And then Project Hail Mary was my new favorite.
So good.
So good. Can't wait for the movie. And I'm like, the research that those guys actually emailed Andy Weir, and he got back to me because I was interested about how they were going to portray one of the characters in Project Hail Mary. And he got back to me within like 10 minutes and gave me some confidence that it would be done correctly. But like, I couldn't believe how much research goes into like, I don't even know like what that, I know that guy's, I think he's in biomed or something like that, but I don't, nothing like that in terms of the research, but there's definitely things that I was looking up in terms of, some of the special ops stuff in Vial 2. I think he made reference of one of the medals he had won, and I had to look up with like what was a really simple medal, right? It was a joke that was the easiest medal to get. And then also what was part of with the editor with the military stuff was I didn't really anticipate it being referenced to a real country when I started writing Vial. So I was kind of thinking Hunger Games style, right? Like, was it Pan Am? Is that like they have their 13 colonies or whatever. And it was, you thought maybe it was in the States, but it never really said it officially. So that's how I was going to kind of leave it a little bit open-ended, that didn't necessarily have to be the United States, but she wanted it grounded in the United States. She's like, no, tie it to the United States. So that kind of did have to make me do a little bit more research. Some of the voting process, I had to make sure like the referendum was a little bit different. I know that we do that up here if there's a kind of a vote. I know she had some problems with that. But there wasn't a ton of research, but there was things when I was doing like some of the landscaping of like something simple. I was trying to Vial 2, they pull into above the Cheyenne mountain base, which is a real place. And then I was trying to look at like what kind of shrubs. So you're trying to be descriptive of what would be around there. I'm like, I have no idea what the heck grows out in that area. So things like that. Military weapons, of course. But no, I don't think I deep dove into it as much as other authors did. And I think that's kind of where my writing would be in terms of the level. Like if this is I call it teen fiction. I teach teens. Right? I walk around the room and see what they're reading, and I don't even know if I would do a full out like I call it an adult book, but I kind of like the simplicity of it and not having to deep dive into a ton of information. And but maybe one day. But I definitely had to do a little bit. If that answers the
Well, it's
question.
kind of nice too because it's kind of through, at least in Vial 1, it was all through the kids' eyes. So, like, they're not going to know some of these other things. So, it's like you don't have to
Yeah.
focus on those types of
Right.
things because you can kind of infer from
Exactly.
things
Yeah.
around.
The
Has there
the one.
been any?
Oh, go ahead.
Go for it.
Oh,
Sorry.
I was gonna say the one thing, like, it was struggling with writing was, when I first started writing, I had a sheet beside me, and it was 300 ways to say "said," right? And it was I couldn't believe how many times when you're writing, especially in a character, in that perspective, you go, "Oh, he said," and then "she said," and then "I'm gonna go to the bathroom," she said. "Well, I'll wait for you here," he said. Like, I don't wanna say this as research, but, like, I had a list out, and every time a character spoke, I was like, "How can I make this sound different?" And again, I think that's where I say, like, you start to learn a skill set that I don't wanna waste and stop writing because, I basically had that thing memorized. So now every time a character said something, I could come up with a feeling behind that through this sheet that 300 ways to say "said." But that was a problem I was running into. I'm like, "Wow, I say 'said' a lot." You just going back and changing those, I guess. And then maybe more of the research, not so much the story, but just a lot of research in how to write a book, how to break off paragraphs, when a character's speaking and when they say a thought in their head, like that changes. They have an action following, and again, I learned all on the spot through these three editors over the course of a year. But if somebody smiles, it changes the punctuation. Like, "I'm going to go to the bathroom," he smiled. If you said something like that,
Hmm.
different than if he said, "I'm going to go to the bathroom," he said. It's instead of a comma, it's a period. Um, and it's a lot to learn like that. So I don't know if the research on terms of the content of the book, but how to write a book, the research was, oh my goodness, so many different rules, and it was interesting.
Has there been any? We like to ask this question too because I feel like everybody's kind of take on it is a little bit different. Um, Reviews. Are you a person that goes and checks reviews like on either Amazon or Goodreads or Storygraph or wherever those types of? Do you look at those or you're like, you know what, that's not my business. I just want people reading it type thing, or because you have your students that read your books too. Are you like
Yeah, a
looking for
couple.
feedback from them?
Yeah.
Anything that they said that is like stood out to you?
Um, great question. I don't have a ton of reviews. And I think a lot of the people who have bought my book and enjoyed it are and that would do a review for me are you know closer relatives or friends of a friend of a friend. But I can't say that I've logged on to Amazon in the last 6 months and looked up the reviews. But I am always just curious to see what people's opinion are after they've read it. So, and it's like, did you pick up on this? Did you like it? Did you hate it? I remember asking people when I first wrote it, I'm like, did it feel like a real book? I was like, does that, or did it like, I was afraid that people would be like, it's terrible. The one mistake I did make, and this haunted me a little bit, was so when I first got the black copy of Vial out, I posted it on Amazon. I printed it out so I could have a couple copies. I was just ecstatic about it. But it was raw, and I knew it was raw. And I think even in the description of Amazon, I'm like, a work in progress. This needs to be edited. Blah 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 blah. Please, if you're buying it, just reader beware. I didn't expect anybody to buy it, and somebody did, and somebody reviewed it. And I think the very first comment I ever got was, "Great concept, but this needs editing so badly I couldn't finish it." And that was like it was raw. There was spelling. It wasn't punctuated properly, and I knew that. I wanted a copy, and that was the only way. I figured out later if there was a way I could get a copy without posting it. But I was like, I reached out to the guy. I'm like, "I'll send you a new copy, please. Change your comment." But he never responded. It's all good. I don't lose sleep over it anymore. But I was kind of saddened that it did say like reader beware. This isn't
Well, it's
complete.
funny that the reader didn't read the reader beware part, so
Yeah,
it's kind of
yeah,
on them at that point.
yeah. And
Basically their fault.
I think he still gave me a couple stars, which, but like I said, maybe 6 months ago when I did see if there was any reviews, or sometimes I could see sales or whatnot. I did see that one. I go, the thing is still there, but I guess live and learn.
Are there any of the characters that you feel like are straight out of real life or
Uh,
characters that you see yourself in? I definitely after talking to you and understanding your background, I feel like you were some of the high school teacher.
So
in the
a
first
lot
book.
of people, a lot of people say that. I actually, I mirrored the high school teacher off of a university professor that I had, who used to start his lectures the same way this teacher did. But a lot of people have said that. Um, no, there's a lot of personal touches in there. I would say some of like the wit, some of the humor, some of the nostalgia is like just my vibes pouring into the book. I think I like the idea of the main character. I always didn't want him to be, I didn't want him to be a superhero. I wanted to be grounded. Like I read some books where it's I know everybody loves the Hunger Games, and it's like the girl with the bow takes down the Capitol. And like Divergent, this girl who's different, it's rebellion. I didn't want Joey to be this super crazy superhero guy. I want him to be a normal kid. So when the book starts, I don't know if that blends any of my childhood in, but I just wanted a regular kid who grows up and then is kind of more it's his fight than what he actually possesses, right? He had to work out a little bit and he grew a little bit, but he didn't have superhuman strength. He wasn't a super big leader. He was just your normal kid. And I kind of, maybe grounded some of my early childhood off of that. I was just not being, this crazy special guy. He wasn't special. Joey wasn't special. What he did was special, but he wasn't special. And I kind of like that grounded.
I feel like that gives normal people something to like aspire to. I mean, everyone's always looking to, people want to be the hero, and to see like an average guy or an average kid do it. It's like, all right, I could be that guy too. In case you were curious too, I won't tell you if you don't want to, but I did look it up on Amazon, and your only bad review is the one you just talked about. In case you were wondering, it's the only one.
It's still there.
That's really funny.
Yeah,
but I was curious. I'm like, I want to see if this review is still here.
I think I said it did bother me at first. I'm like, oh no, but like I said, I've got over it. Was there anything that did any of my little twists catch you guys at all? Was there anything like without spoilers? I would say, they're in the bedroom of book one. There's kind of a character that was along for the ride the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
There was that. There was the ending a little bit. Did any of that, make
I
you
remember
go,
the bedroom scene being one that I was not expecting. Because I believe, again, not giving spoilers, that was the first time we had seen a character in a while too that had come back type thing. So
right?
that was
that
was something I was like, okay.
Right.
Yeah, I think that was something that stuck out. The ending, I remember like because I felt like something had to be coming, right? So like in my brain I was expecting something a little bit. But even in Vial 2, I remember when we got a lot of like the scenes in the shop, the mechanic shop.
Right.
Those scenes were, I don't know, like they were twists for sure, but they were more like shocking too. Like those were cool to read. I'm like, wow, this is intertwining like a lot more than I thought it would. And at the end,
every time it like bounced off, I was like, hey, that's like I didn't see that coming at all. It was very enjoyable to watch the spots that it interwove, and then I didn't see the pregnancy at the end coming at all. Spoilers.
Did well, before going that route, I guess my one question I like to ask people, and I don't think this is a spoiler, but did you connect in Vial 2 Sarah at the end? Like,
no, and I thought that was very rude of you to do to the characters.
Like, I guess my question was, I think I had asked somebody like once Figello and Sarah meet, I was hoping that everything was forgotten about until the last when Joey comes back in and then reveals like, oh my god, yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah,
my brain was like,
either.
shit. Like once that like I forget what exactly it was that like teed it off, because it wasn't exactly like this is this person. It was like I think he like came out of like the alley in like the shadows or something.
Yeah. I was hoping you were rooting for Sarah and Figello, like, oh, he lost.
I was. Okay, but even at the end, I'm still rooting for them. I think they'll be fine. I think they'll figure it out.
They can handle
it.
It
might be a little messy, but
sorry, I killed your husband.
I was hoping, and then when you're writing that, I'm like, geez, I hope they forget about that. Otherwise, like somebody be like, no, you guys can't get together. I know what happened. But it was so long ago that I was just hoping that the reader would forget about.
I feel like it was done well enough too, where even if I was like, all right, I finished Vial 1, I'm gonna hop into Vial 2. I feel like it was done well enough to where I wouldn't immediately pick up on it. I might pick up on it a little bit quicker, but I wouldn't immediately be like, "Oh my god,
Yeah, you could tell there was a trajectory. You're just like, what's going on here? Something's happening. Where are they gonna
why
like
are we
intertwine? Like,
building this up so
yeah, what's going
much?"
on? And then it happens, and it's like, oh man, did not realize that's where that was going at all.
Good. And then I think Danny in I kind of foreshadowed that. I didn't know if I was coming off too strong. Danny in the original, there's a scene where him and Joey are talking and they're driving the RV together. And Danny says to Joey, like, I know you're interested in Mac, and, me and her are done. And, it's basically like, I wish you the best of luck. And Joey's like, it's kind of weird. But what that was kind of foreshadowing was that, why is Danny there then? If they're done, if there's nothing between Mackenzie and Danny anymore. And then in the bedroom scene, obviously there's comes to light that there's some ulterior motives there. But again, that was something I'm like, am I giving this away too much? Does it? And so I always ask the readers if they picked up on that there was. And then also, sorry, one more thing. This is a spoiler, so I don't know if you want to cut this out, but you guys said
Yeah, we'll keep spoilers and spoiler warning for those watching.
We usually keep spoilers in our 4 months.
Wrote what I thought I wrote the heck out of, or my favorite character was Philip. And like, I've read it obviously over and over again. And I sell him early as the sick kid. He's coughing throughout the book. He's not allowed out. And then he's the kid who shows up with the RV. He's got his hand pumping out the window when he shows up the first time. And then he's the one who's on the roof with the binoculars. And he was the only, and then obviously he meets his fate in the alley. And also that is also intertwined. There's a scene in Vial 2 where they come in, they talk about how they just opened fire on an RV in the corner of the parking lot.
Mhm.
But he obviously comes to an end there. And he was the only one who didn't need to be there. And I think that's mentioned at the end of the book. Like, Philip was there just to be there. And I loved him so much. And when I ask people, I go, what about Philip? Did you feel anything for Philip? And they're like, who's Philip? I'm like,
Like, no.
The sick kid who came out of his shell, who was leading the RV. And they're like, oh yeah, I guess that was sad. I'm like, sad. He was selfless. But
one of our things we talk about in our like rating system is emotional impact. I don't remember our initial video that we did on this, but we always bring up like deaths in books because there's a difference between killing a character just for shock value or killing a character that you feel is important that really isn't important type thing. Like oh, my character's brother died, but we never saw him on screen one time. It's like, well, why do I care type thing.
Right.
But I felt like Philip was, like you said, it's one of those, they don't have to be there, but they're the one bringing, the RV. They're not like, they're so important. Everybody else is kind of like not seeing them as important. But as a reader, you're picking up on like, you get to see what the other characters don't see type thing. So I remember at least, Philip and that being at least an emotional death off the page, as opposed to the other characters. But
Good. That makes me feel a little bit better because, like I said, some people are like, "Who's Philip?" I'm like,
my favorite character. How dare you? Damn it!
How dare you?
Dang. Yeah, Philip.
Well,
What about?
Go ahead.
Go for it.
I was going to say, moving. I don't know if you were going to ask this, but I moving forward. I'm taking a small break from Vial, Vial 3. I've got some ideas cooking. I keep my ideas book with me.
Hey, there you
very
go.
nice. Labeled appropriately.
Yes, and I plot things out and this thing. If anybody ever stole this, they'd be like, "This guy needs to be locked up somewhere," because it's just it's like ideas everywhere. And also some student marking. My marking. But I've started another little project. Had this I don't know what it is, but like this nostalgia vibe going, and I've made it my mission to collect the original Goosebump books. I don't know if that's
nice.
man.
I've got a bunch at my parents' house.
Yeah, so I've been like doing the thrift shop thing, and I think of the original set, there's like 62 or 61
That's
books.
crazy.
So, I think I got like 48 of them. And it's a little project of just trying. Like, I'm not buying them off eBay or anything, but if I see them, I grab them. And in my head, I was like, I read one. They're terrible. It was so bad. The one I read one. I remember not finishing. I think it was a horror at Camp Jelly Jam. So I found it. I'm like, I don't read this thing. Grade 4, Carlo didn't finish it. Maybe I'll finish it now. It was terrible. And I'm like, I could write something like this. So my new little project is I'm going to write 3 Goosebump style books. They're not going to be horror books. Are you guys familiar with like Black Mirror, the show Black Mirror?
Yeah.
So it's going to be more like that. And they're going to be shorter ones. I'm going to kind of use inspiration from like the look of Goosebumps and kind of like that. What made Goosebumps cool was the name, the look of the book, the titles
The
of the book.
covers were cool too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to try and do something like that. So I want to. I know no one's going to be able to pick up Vial 3 in terms of a publisher. So and because it's 4 to 8 months to hear something, I figured if I write something else, I can be spending time pitching that to publishing companies, well, then going back and writing Vial 3. So that's I've got, I'm almost done number 1 actually. When it's done, I'll have to send you guys
Yeah.
what's that called? Like the author
Hardcore
preview
beta.
version. Yeah.
Yeah, depending on when you want us in the process.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's gonna be short. It'll be, I think they're about 25,000 words. So, um,
That sounds really fun though.
yeah, I have, and I watch I love those shows that twist your mind, movies that twist your mind. And I'm like, I've got all these ideas and I can't write a million books because it would just take forever. So in my idea book of every time I come up with something, I'm like, oh, this would be a great idea, but maybe I can't write 12 novels, but I could write, 12 short little stories and just condense them and be inspired by R.L. Stein there. We'll see. I also have I'm going to try I've also started another book, but I put that on hold. About floating cities is my next little more sci-fi idea there. So we'll see. Lots in the works if I ever get a moment of quiet time around here to do some more writing.
Well, I'm looking forward to those because those are like, it's like the perfect length, and like you have like this cool concept and stuff. I think those will hopefully, turn out really well. Have you ever heard of, speaking of Goosebumps, since you're close to Michigan, maybe? Well, they have different versions, but like American Chillers or Michigan Chillers, they were kind of like Goosebumps, but like less spooky type thing. But they had like the cover, they had like the meme name type thing, where it's like some sort of alliteration or whatever.
What are they called?
They have American Chillers, but then they have Michigan Chillers.
Okay.
Jonathan Rand is the author of the Michigan Chillers. I don't know who wrote the American Chillers, to be honest, but they have like that cover. And I have a bunch of those at my parents' house too, and they're right next to the Goosebumps one. So that's just what reminded me
Are
of
they
that.
old? They're like older style, like
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah. I think I found some of the Animorphs. I think that was another popular one.
Oh man, I was a huge Animorphs fan.
Yeah, and then he did Fear Street as well. I think R.L. Stein. And it's funny my classroom, because I'm not like a in the class teacher. I have this kind of different setup. I'm in the library at our school, so I'm surrounded by books. So when I walk in, I'm always kind of looking. I'm saying, okay, what's going on?
A blessing and a curse.
Yeah,
that's
good right now.
Yeah, 100%. But it's funny to see like I look at those and I like they're all public books, and it's funny like if you go to like Barnes and Nobles and all these, like when you realize how many people are doing it. And that's why I say like it's so subjective, and you got to get the right agent or the right company at the right time, because there's just so many people out there submitting books, and it only takes to looking at a library to be like, oh my god, there's a lot of people doing this. Sometimes I find like I'm like looking at the book, I'm like, okay, who made this? Maybe I should reach out to that company, because there's also a ton of companies that are doing it as well. So there's lots of inspiration being in a library all day, that's for sure.
Is your book in the library?
Yeah, the librarian brought it in for me, so
very nice.
It's always funny. I go and I go, it's in the bookshelf like it should be, but I always go and turn it. So it's like
display
it's outwards.
It's like eye catching. Oh, look at that book.
Yeah. Actually, the last student who had it, they really destroyed it. So I'm gonna have to get him a new copy. It looks like a typical high school student. It looks like it got some orange juice
chucked in a book bag,
shoved in a backpack and folded, and they're like holding
care.
it in half while they're reading it.
But I got it there. I did a book author signing, I guess, sorry, is what you'd call it, at a bookstore about 25 minutes from me, and the lady was nice. She loves having indie authors in there, so it's in a bookstore. Of course, they're on Amazon as well. So, again, it's so much it's a lot of footwork, right? And you got to be, we were talking there, Curtis, earlier before Dakota hopped on, just about you got to be a salesperson to sell a book. You got to be making calls to bookstores or libraries to ask that they want to carry. Or like I had my puppy book at a store and they sold out really quick. And I'm like, oh, this is great. But the upkeep to say, hey, do you need more? And I'll drive them there 25 minutes. This lady was 25 minutes away as well. I'm like, do you need me to bring more? And she took a second batch, but like, do I call every month? And then I feel like I'm pestering them. And they're two very different skills to be a writer and then to be somebody who's going to market your work as well. Um, I just wish it was like you could write and then be famous and make a ton of money, but it's not the case.
That's kind of how I feel about doing this too. It's like two different things for us to just sit down and chat about books we read and talk to authors. A whole other thing to like curate the videos and post them and like make hooks and edit, and it's like a whole other thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome that you guys are doing this as a team as well, because it at least alleviates some of the pressure, responsibility to be able to divide it up. Like, and again, I don't even know anybody to really talk to in my area. There's not a lot of people here doing that. And like it'd be great to have like a marketing team. But you guys, you post so often, and it's got to be a battle to I don't say stay relevant, but to keep finding fresh material. At least you got people to bounce it. Like my buddies, my buddies are tired of hearing about. I can't even get my friends to read my book sometimes. Like my one buddy's like, "Oh, don't worry, I'm gonna read it one of these days." I'm like, "It has been out for 4 years, my friend. Like, I will give you a copy." He's like, "No, no, no, I'll buy it. Don't worry." I'm like, "Okay,
I'll get there.
you'll get
Or
there."
at least stop lying to me about it. Just say you're not going to read it.
Yeah.
Actually, I play on a hockey team, and like just they're a bunch of awesome guys, but I wouldn't expect them to be like interested in books. And I've sold, I think they've all bought a copy. The one guy's read it to his kids. One bought it for a gift for his kid, and he's like supposed to play with him on Saturday. And he's like, "Make sure you bring Vial too." I'm like, "Okay, I'll get it." Like they're where I've sold most of my books, through these hockey guys. So there is some
That's
people,
wholesome.
there's supportive people out there, but it's again, it's not a lot of people to bounce ideas off of, especially with writing or marketing or like I said, different skill set.
Sure. Well, you have to make sure you tell them, go review on Goodreads or Amazon or
Yeah,
something.
please go. And a good review, please give me.
Yeah, make that the caveat.
Go review
Put something in the book that
unless it's
says
a bad review.
you can only have this if you review this book. Because I feel like we had talked to a couple indie authors, and that was the hardest part. Was some people would read them, but they don't review them. So it's like it's harder to push your book out there if you have no reviews. Because a lot of people read reviews to pick their book. We don't usually do that. We're just like, this book looks good, we'll go ahead and read it. But a lot of people are like, this only has blah blah blah, stars or whatever.
Well, I'm guilty of being a bandwagon. I love to read. I don't get it. Like when I'm reading, I'm like, oh, I could be writing. So one of those, like, I got a stack of books I want to read. But I'm like, I could read that, or I could write mine. Like, what do I do? Where do I put my time and effort? And I try to do a little bit of balance of both. But I'm a big fan because I'm so selective on what I read. Like, I'm looking for what's popular. I'm like, if I'm going to sit down and read a book, I want to know that it's been like tried, tested, and true. So I've
That's
just
fair.
downloaded the Red Rising for Audible. So that's going to be my first attempt at a audiobook. And I have Will of the Many on my my
You're
nightstand.
picking some banger books right
These
here.
are great books. I approve of all. I approve of all.
I just
These.
finished Project Hail Mary 11/22/63, and then somebody bought me Secret of Secrets by Dan Brown for Christmas.
I'm familiar with Dan Brown, but I
Yeah,
haven't
he
read
did Da
that
Vinci
one.
Code,
Okay.
Inferno, and this was his
That's
new
the
one.
red book, right? Where it's like,
It is. Yeah, it's red. I think the price. I looked at the price; it was like $52. I'm like, yeah, I got to raise my price from 19 or whatever I'm selling for. But so I've got this stack of books, but it's just trying to balance it. But I always try to find things I've done. And I know that you're a huge Red Rising fan. You got the poster in the background there. And did you guys do the Dungeon Crawler Carl?
Yeah.
Ah, yes.
Well, we didn't talk about them like together, like on a
Yeah.
video or anything, but we have read them.
Yeah, and they're
I
good?
just did the audiobooks for them.
Oh, okay. I heard those are even good too. You got them. Oh, okay. I could. Yeah. You're good.
If you do read them and you find out you do like audiobooks, the audiobooks are actually just insane. I'm not a
The
big audiobook
audiobooks are a
person. It
masterpiece.
takes me like a month a book at least, just because I get distracted. They're so good. They're next level. If I had to recommend any audiobook,
Right. Well, I'm gonna start with the Red Rising one, and then
Do you have the dramatized audio for Red Rising?
I think it is. Yeah, I got a free book when I signed up for it. I think that was the one I went with. I'm pretty sure.
Those are supposed
Nice.
to be cool too. The like full cast.
I was listening to chapter 1. I'm like, I think I could do this, and then I haven't gotten back to it, even though it was interesting. I got to try and find when I do it. And I know some people do it when they're driving, or I have to live 47 seconds from my work. So by the time I get it on in my car, I would already be at work.
we'll talk
Yeah.
to you in 2028 when you finish it. Then
Right.
Yeah.
When the movie's coming out.
Oh, is there a movie? There's got to be.
I don't know. It's just
I hope so.
He's still going with the series too, right? Is he?
The
You
final
didn't?
book comes out this summer,
Okay, I
allegedly.
just saw a thing with them doing an interview.
Well, we'll kind of get wrapped up a little bit here. We
Yeah,
always like to kind of end on what's something that you would kind of tell the people listening or the readers. What do you want them to kind of leave with? Either final thoughts, it could be, always be positive type thing, or it could be something about your book, just something you kind of want to. It could even be
yeah.
a promotion. This is the time to promote the book.
Anything you want to say, the floor is yours.
Anything else? Well, like I said, I'm terrible at promoting my book. That's something I need to work on. But I guess I would say if I would say a few things. I'll leave like 2 points there. A, if you're looking to support indie authors, check out the books. I'd love some support. I'm just a average guy trying to do what he can in the writing world. And I think there's just a little something in here for everybody, all ages might find something to connect with. And I know the indie author world is doing its thing, so I'm happy to be a part of it, and I appreciate what you guys do. And again, I would say that I know there's a lot of people who've come to me and said that they want to write a book and it's on their bucket list, and I'd say go for it. It is you don't have to sell one of these to just feel like you've accomplished something. And not to get like philosophical or anything, but it's really cool that like this stays behind. If something happens to me, like there's a couple of these out there that somebody could read down the road. It's really cool feelings. It doesn't have to be about sales, doesn't have to be about money, but I do think if it's something you've ever wanted to do, go for it, and you know you won't regret it, I don't think.
All right.
Well,
For the love of the game.
Love of the game. I like
just
that.
make it happen.
Thank you so much for being here and chatting with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having
Awesome
me.
that
Guys.
this could work out. I know we just reached out a couple of days ago and you're like, all right, let's do it. I'm like,
Let's
let's
make
do
it
this
happen.
thing. So thank you very much
I-
for chatting with us.
Yeah, thanks
I
for joining
appreciate
us.
your time. I appreciate all you guys do for the book talk world, but for the indie authors, it's nice to get some support and have some fans in our corner and some people who believe in us and promote our stuff and read our books, because it's a tough job to take on a book sometimes. So you guys took not only one but two of my books, and I deeply, deeply appreciate what you guys do. And thanks for doing it for me.
Yeah,
been
absolutely.
our
And if we can
pleasure.
at least hopefully get one other person to read your book, then we'll have done our job.
It'd be awesome. I appreciate it, guys.
Well, thanks again. Thanks everybody at home for watching. We'll see you next time. This was Carlo, Dakota, and Curtis on RSQ. We'll see you next time. RSQ out.